Tell me about your career from where you started till now.
Oh boy, that's a pretty open-ended thing. My career started in the early 1980s, and you have to look back on those days when we still had revolvers. Having graduated from the academy on day one, when I returned to the Great Falls Police Department, President Ronald Reagan was in town, and those of us that were new graduates were put in charge of securing a perimeter. But because we were so new and untested, they put us out into an empty field thousands of yards away from where the venue was. So that little patch of field was very secure, but I was quite nervous because I didn't really know what I was doing. But pretty great opportunities. When you work with a police department or sheriff's office, you kind of go through different phases, working patrol, and then maybe you move over to investigations. I had the opportunity to do both. And then for 7 years, I worked narcotics. A lot of that was undercover narcotics investigations in the late 80s and the early 90s. I was working for DEA, FBI, local agencies, undercover work. Very enjoyable, very interesting experience. Really got to see a part of the world that a lot of people don't get to see. Continued on in my career with Great Falls Police. After 31 years, I ended up having the opportunity to become the administrator for the Divisional Criminal Investigation at the Department of Justice. And I really saw that as a good opportunity to help guide the future of public safety and for our state over that term. It's an attorney general appointment. I've worked for two different attorney generals, the last one being Attorney General Knudsen. He's been incredibly supportive. When we were out-resourced, he found a way to get us additional resources. Back in the day, we didn't have the internet. And we've gone from wagon trails to contrails and now working computer crime, crimes against children online, sexual exploitation, human trafficking. All of these pieces had to be kind of brought forward, and we had to develop the expertise to stay with the times. So it's been an interesting challenge. It's been a wonderful experience, but I think it's also time to hand it off to somebody else. It's better to retire too early than too late, and I may have already been in this game a little bit too long myself.
Okay. Um, if you could describe your career in one word, what would it be and why?
Man, I don't know how you came up with that one. Hmm, let's see. I guess amazing would be the way to describe it. It's a part of the job where you know what's happening in the news before it hits the news. We're working homicide investigations, helping local agencies solve crime. We're seeing parts of the world that most of us are never exposed to. It takes some resilience. I think we have some really great officers out there and leaders in public safety that are concerned for their communities. But you also have to kind of understand what it can do to you. When you see a lot of negative, you have to turn back on the positive side of your life, whether it's your family or the things you do as a hobby, in order to make it. So yes, it was an amazing experience, and I feel fortunate to have played a small part in it.
In over 4 decades in law enforcement, what will you miss the most?
I think anybody in any long career is going to say it's the people, and I feel the same way. I have a profound respect for the profession and the work that people do. I'm sad to see some of the changes with the defund the police, and don't really sense that here in Montana. We've always felt extremely well supported, but I have a profound respect for the profession and the people that work here. The commitment, the dedication, the camaraderie, and we have fun, the dark humor, all of those pieces are something that I know I'm going to miss. I plan to stay engaged. I teach at the Law Enforcement Academy, so I'll be able to interact with law enforcement officers during that time. There's a saying that Mark Twain had that the man who grabs a cat's tail is 40 times smarter than the man who never has. And I feel I grabbed a few cattails along the way and hopefully gotten a little bit smarter because of it.
Okay. In a more than successful career, how rewarding has it been over the years to help people who are most of the time having possibly the worst day of their lives? How rewarding is it to be able to be there and help those people through those times?
Well, as far as the experience of helping people, I mean, that's why we sign up. I would venture to say 100% of peace officers who are applying for a position, or applicants applying for a peace officer position, say they want to get into it to help people, and I was no different. There's times you can't. I mean, there's difficult times and there's tragic times that you see. And then there's narcotics where you have drug dealers, but you also see people recovering from substance abuse and become successful. I'll give you an example. I had been in my new position with the state for about 2 years. I'm at a meeting in Billings. I'm coming off the elevator from my hotel room, and a man yells my name, and he was big. I mean, he was so big, he was casting his own shadow against me. And I said, "Do I know you?" And he said, "Yes." He says, "You arrested me for DUI 32 years ago." And I didn't quite know what to say to that other than, "How did that work out for you?" And he said, "It worked out terrific." He says, "I haven't had a drop to drink since." So some of these impacts you have don't know. You don't realize when you first have that contact what impact that'll have later in life. But that's the rewarding part, is feeling that you did have some impact, a positive impact on somebody's future.
Okay. What is one thing at DCI in your career that you will never forget? Good, bad, ugly. What's one thing you'll never forget?
Well, I think the most poignant time for me was when we were asked to investigate the tragic shooting of Mason Moore. That was a horrific crime scene because it was spread out all over the state, and it deeply impacted officers. I have gone through the loss of Officer Shane Chadwick with the Great Falls Police Department, and I know the repercussions that has not only on the officers, the leadership, but also on the community. And this had an impact around the entire state. It takes some strength, it takes some resilience, it takes some guidance, it takes some private time to weep on your own. And I thought our folks handled that so professionally and did such a good job. And that includes anybody at the Department of Justice who was involved, including our prosecution services. So it's a bad memory, but I think that we really stepped up and we also showed combined strength and unity as peace officers.
And then what's one takeaway from your entire career that you may use in everyday life, or one thing that you remind yourself daily? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Well, I think it's important to be responsive to your people, be accountable to them, and to realize that you're being watched when you don't know it. But I've always tried to, if somebody asks something or needs something, I'm always going to try to be there and give them an answer, even if it isn't an immediate one. I'm always going to be accountable for them and responsive to them.
All right, now the most fun question. Any retirement plans, fun things planned yet?
Oh, well, it's going to be hard just to turn off the switch in this kind of a career, especially after this amount of time. So I got some good advice that you need to take a couple of months off to decompress. There's that high functioning part of the brain that says it's the right thing to do, but there's that limbic system that is still used to adrenaline, and I'm going to have to take a couple months and really pretty much just decompress. After that, I'm going to continue teaching at the Law Enforcement Academy as needed, do a little bit of consulting. Got our first grandchild, so that's very exciting. Just a variety of different things to mix it up, but I'm not ready to completely stop doing anything. There's still gas in the tank.
Perfect. Anything else you would like to mention?
No, I appreciate you doing this.